You are listening to Radio Data, a podcasting radio where we talk about data, cloud, analytics, and AI with different guests, different hosts, and in different segments. This segment is called Data Journey, where our guests talk about how data moves around in their company, what technologies they use, and what value data brings to their products. Hello everyone. Today my expert guest is Sergiy Tkachuk. Sergiy lives in Warsaw in Poland and he works as a data science manager at Reckitt. Reckitt is a British multinational consumer goods company that produces many well-known health, hygiene and nutrition products such as Vanish or Calgon. I will be talking with Sergey about how he and his company use data analytics and AI in the retail industry. Let's start with the introduction, Sergey. Could you please tell us more about yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me. I'm currently leading data science team at Reckitt. As a data science manager, we're a cross-functional global team. We're part of the IT and digital organization. Our mandate primarily is to support different functions and different businesses within the company with advanced analytics and machine learning. We're helping them to adopt different solutions and explain how to use them, how business can benefit from using machine learning applications and big data to better perform in different areas, from e-commerce to sales, from HR to brand protection, for example. And there are different use cases that I can also elaborate later on. In terms of my background as well, I spent, before joining Reckitt, I spent a little bit more than 5 years in energy management company called Schneider Electric in different roles as well, and from HR analytics to global sales and global marketing, all in analytics roles, but in different functions. Also, I had an episode when I was working for a retail industry, developing some assortment management algorithms that evolved later on into the PhD research that I'm pursuing right now as well in the Polish Academy of Science.
You mentioned the name of your current company. This is Reckitt. Could you please tell us more about it?
Yes, absolutely. So the Reckitt is the company behind some of the most recognizable consumer brands. For example, Vanish, Durex, Finish, Air Wick, and many more. This is one of the largest CPG and FMCG companies, the UK-based company. We are, in terms of the data, we're collecting a lot of first-party data, web, mobile, application behavior, point of sales, call center information, some purchase history of our consumers, as well as less structured data. So, for example, consumer reviews. So we do tell a lot through our different e-commerce channels, and we care about our consumers, of course, experience and safety. So we do listen to them through selection of the selection and gathering of the consumer reviews. Obviously, there are a lot of initiatives internally that happens that require some other unstructured data. For example, some documents that we use for the automation, applying some OCR on top of them, etc.
For example, if I go to one of the supermarkets like Tesco and buy one of your products, let's say Calgon tablets, what type of data would you be able to collect about this purchase?
Well, it depends. It depends it exactly depends on what point of sales you're going to, and we don't have all information about all transactions because obviously there are retailers that own this data, right? And with some of them, we have an agreement, and we share this data at some aggregation level that allows us to process them and also take some decisions on top of them. This helps, for example, to do better planning, forecasting, etc. In terms of the data points, it usually involve price point, what is the item, so a single SKU, price, description, whether there was a promotion or not. There are a lot of the quantity bought, etc.
So this is the aggregated data that you might or might not collect if I go to the supermarket. However, do you also have a mobile app that allows your customers to buy directly from you?
So right now we do have some mobile application, although they're not not all of those mobile applications are for allows buying. And in, for example, in some markets such as North America, where some brands from the nutrition business of Reckitt are more popular, one of these brands are Enfamil. We do have mobile applications that gather data, the usage, and allow us to build some kind of attribution models and basket analysis based on the collected data sets.
It's great that you have already mentioned two use cases for your data, such as basket analysis or attribution models. Could you please tell us more about them and also about the value that they bring to your company and your customers?
For the basket analysis, this one is pretty much straightforward, and I think very common in the industry, where you try to model the customer behavior through the purchase history and understand what products are commonly bought, and this enables better cross-sell experience, essentially, so that you can do better recommendations on your web pages. So through this analysis of the baskets, I think more interesting use case that I can share as well is that we collect data for the consumer reviews from this e-commerce sites that I mentioned earlier, and we analyze them to better understand whether consumers report some of the adverse events. For example, some of our products have a pharma nature, and we do need to make sure that all of them are safe. And if there is some adverse event, if someone uses, for example, wheat, so the cream for depilation, and leave in comments on some e-commerce platform that it's itchy after the application, we need to know that. And in some geographies, in some markets, we're legally obliged to report the observed adverse event in a short period of time after we observe it. And so by collecting consumer reviews, we created a model that is able to identify whether an adverse event was reported or not in this consumer review. It's a super interesting use case. It's quite a nice NLP study as well. There are not a lot of solutions like this available out of the box on the market, and this is something that we are developing in-house. This is a proprietary model, and of course we did some research on that, leveraging some open data sets that are available. But it's one of the interesting use cases we're working on currently as well.
Yes, this use case is very interesting and also very important. And you told me that this is the in-house model that you developed internally at Reckitt. And what are the tools that you use at Reckitt to experiment with data, develop your ML models, and later deploy them on production?
I think it's pretty straightforward. For most of the projects, we are trying to leverage our data lake, and we built on top of the Azure Databricks, where we can quickly prototype using different notebooks and build model on top of the data objects that are there, leveraging the pre-processed data sets that are ready to use for data scientists. I think it's very good platform as well, because right now what we observe is that the line between data engineering and data science is blurring. So you can actually do entire work in one place, doing some pre-processing and ETLs in Databricks, and then build model on top of this. And we are leveraging ML flow that is built into the Databricks to track the performance of the models, and then store different artifacts, compare the model performance, and then serve it. This is one of the ways we are using it. Some other experimentation initiatives require usage of different tool stack. We're primarily using Azure as our main cloud provider, and some of the models that we're building are built on top of the Azure ML, also leveraging ML flow. So we start with a small prototype that we do on using some regular computational VMs that help us to kind of rapidly prototype and get the data out of the source systems, process, feature engineer, and then we scale, because scale is super important for us as well, and engineer for the broader usage within the group.
Do you also have to retrain your models from time to time when something important or unexpected happens, such as COVID-19, the war, or inflation?
Use case with the adverse events detection was very challenging because we didn't have enough training data, and we started with the little data sets because it's super difficult. And now we are also working with some of the third parties that will help us label this data to make the training set more reliable. But before we did that, and the moment when prototyping, we had our internal subject matter experts that helped us label these data sets. And this is so-called a human-in-the-loop process that, okay, they delivered us more data, we have more labeled, it's more accurate, and now, and then we continuously retrain this. And we have a retraining mechanism for this specific use case set up on Azure ML right now.
You said that the line between data engineers and data scientists is blurring, and that you also had a subject matter expert in your team that developed one of the use cases. So this brings me to the next question. How do you actually build data teams at Reckitt?
Starting from the SME, the SME is not part of our team. So we collaborated with the customer relationship team, and they helped us to label the data set, and they played a role of an SME, providing us some information and knowledge, the domain knowledge regarding the consumer reviews. But in terms of the data engineering and data science, I think here, it's super challenging sometimes to draw this line where the responsibilities of the data engineer ends and where the data science come into play. And what my observation is that we really go towards a kind of a hybrid model where we have so-called full stack data scientists, when they can also the prototype on with some data engineering pipelines that are sufficient for data science workloads and further feature engineering. And so here, I think where this line is really blurred, and I think platforms right now really enables people to work on both sides.
You told us about the technology stack that you use at Reckitt, for example, Azure or Databricks. However, what are the programming languages that full stack data scientists at Reckitt are using?
I think it's very common for not just for our company, but for most of the data scientists out there. So the Python is definitely our mother tongue. So there are other languages that are less common and used more for data engineering workloads. So for example, Scala. It's I would say that this is a rare skill, but it exists. And for some of the I would say boutique statistical inference, we sometimes use R still.
Okay, that's great. And based on what we talk about, it looks that at Reckitt you have already a number of business use cases implemented using ML and AI, and you also have a modern setup in the cloud, plus a very strong team of full stack data scientists. And my question is, what are the main lessons that you learned when working with data and ML? For example, what was difficult, what was unexpected, or where did you spend more time than initially estimated?
The amount of time spent on the research is often underestimated, and I think we need to really spend more time on understanding the problem, and not only from the inside, because obviously we start with the business understanding, with why we need to solve this problem, what benefit it brings. But often we forget about looking externally and looking like how this type of problems were solved somewhere else. And I think this is something that we need to emphasize going forward, because I think this, and like with this adverse event, I'm coming back again to this use case, right? We did a good literature review and looked at some academic papers, and now we see that it goes really well, because there are a lot of leveraged knowledge that we can reuse and just not reinvent something. I think another considerations is data collection. The big part of our organization is actually making sure that we have everything in one place, well documented, etc. So I think this should not be underestimated. While we are doing some advanced modeling, there are also some fundamentals that need to be figured out first. So
Yes, I totally agree. Without high quality data, it's impossible to implement high quality ML models. Basically, garbage in means garbage out. But let's move to the next topic. We talk a lot about what you have already achieved at Reckitt, but what about the future? Are there any interesting challenges that you will be facing this or next year that will require you to use a different way of working, different technologies, or different skills?
I think usage of the out of the box tools and maybe shift to some auto ML solutions will help us in the future, because some of the more standard problems, like classification, for example, we do. Also, one of the use cases is related to the people analytics in HR. So we are doing a employee churn model, and this is also super interesting to work on. And we did a lot of features that are not common and very custom. But I still think that some of the AutoML solutions can do very well in this as well, and it can save a lot of time, and we can focus on more tailored projects, on more tailored feature engineering that can bring more value to the group.
Do I understand correctly that you have some use cases that are still important, but standard algorithm or standard ML libraries are good enough for them, and you would like to simply reuse them and this way save the time to work on more complex use cases where tailor-made solutions are necessary to increase their efficiency? Because I assume that at scale of your company, improving some models by just 1% of efficiency can translate to huge gains. So that you would like to spend as much time as possible on those use cases and use out-of-the-box solutions for other set of use cases that are still important but don't require tailor-made solutions.
Yeah, precisely, exactly. Yes, yes. And we're now also looking at some sales execution use cases that can bring a lot of value to the group, and they are definitely worth spending more time on.
So now I would like to wish you a successful implementation of this use case, and I would like to thank you for joining our podcast and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you very much, Sergey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you are interested in new episodes of Radio Data, please follow us on Acast, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Also visit gettingdata.com to find more information about other ways that we gather and share the knowledge.